Welcome to Football 301. This is your co-host, Charles McDonald. Nate Tice, still out on paternity leave. So we are putting our feet on the couch once again. I've got my friends Stephen Ruiz, Diante Lee from the Ringer NFL show. Later in the show, Nate and Mina Kimes from ESPN are going to rank their top 10 football movies and TV shows. Please stick around for that. But today, we are talking unresolved situations left before training camp. But first, we have one situation that did just get resolved. Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, 7th-round pick, traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is starting a second chapter in Miami after getting drafted there and jettisoned from there during the Brian Flores stuff back in 2018, 2019, whenever that was. Steven, Diante, first, how are you guys? Second, are you guys doing better than Jalen Ramsey or Minkah Fitzpatrick this week?
I think I'm doing better than Jalen Ramsey. I don't know if I'm doing better than Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
I feel like the upgrade from Pittsburgh to Miami is an upgrade that I just can't, relate with at this point.
Yeah, I think I'm with Steven on this one. I would much rather be Minkah right now. Nothing better than going to Miami with no expectations and a lot of money in your pocket.
I will take being Steven Ruiz over Jalen Ramsey right now and having to deal with Aaron Rodgers, though, at the moment. I will say that.
Okay, am I wrong for thinking that this trade just doesn't really matter? It's like kind of like a 1-for-1 swap, but your problems are still the same either way, especially for Miami, because I was looking at their defensive depth chart this morning, and the secondary, like even if you swap out Jalen for Minkah, it's still treacherous out there. Artie Burns is slated to start for this team. They got something named Storm Duck, who is starting, who last I heard was a quarterback for the Steelers like 6 years ago when I was covering the Jets. I don't really understand what is going on here, but the Dolphins have found themselves in a spot where I'm not sure if there's any one player you could add to the secondary that would actually make it functional. So I don't really know where they're treading water here.
It kind of seems like it was two headaches in both locker rooms, and they just kind of swapped headaches. Like it's hard to say because like at the end of the Steelers season, the whole defense wasn't playing well, but like some of the vets like Hayward and TJ Watt were kind of sending veiled shots at anonymous players saying like not everyone's doing what they're supposed to do on every given play. Some people read between the lines and thought that was Minkah. I think Jalen Ramsey has just been upset with Miami since he's gotten there. Like they chased Vic Fangio out of town. Now he wanted to leave again. I don't know. So it just seems like they swapped headaches. And I totally agree with you. The problems, like the rosters, the strengths and the weaknesses of the defense still look the same to me on paper.
How does it feel to be Chris Greer, right? Like, to get back the guy that you gave away in the first place. You didn't recoup any of the draft capital, that came with, trying to acquire all these veterans with the last iteration of the defense that existed. You extended Jalen Ramsey and then said, after the extension, we're parting ways. I don't know. That's probably outside of Terry Fontenot, who I know I don't want to derail this conversation because I know Charles can go on a whole diatribe about Terry.
We'll get to him.
But Chris Greer is right there on that list of guys who does things that I just cannot wrap my mind around. And I think that if you're looking at this too deep, especially for a team that would like to be a playoff team, it's hard to find anything to be optimistic about on either side of the ball. But that defense has worst in the league potential.
Is this like the equivalent of like a midlife crisis for a GM? Doing this trade, this is like I tweeted this the other day. Like this is a trade you do when you're bored and you're mad in franchise. In year 3.
I mean, 185 overall for another 85 overall. Yeah. What's the difference?
I've been in a franchise with Charles, and I feel like he's made this type of trade in year 3. Every time I've been in one with him,
made it a billion times where you just trade like one wide receiver for another that has like slightly different stats that you like. But at the end of the day, like we're not any better or really any different. I'm still throwing 3 picks when I get into my user games and I'm blowing late leads. And I just think it's funny that the Dolphins, like, why did you let Javon Holland walk if you were going to make this signing? Like, why not just have Holland and Minkah or Holland and Jalen? Well, Jalen was on the way out, but why not have Holland and Minkah? At least then you got like 2+ starters that you can count on. Now it's just gonna be Minkah putting out a whole bunch of fires. And like as just a free safety, I don't really know how valuable that is with no real other pieces around him, unless the front seven just straight up kicks ass this year. And then maybe that's your difference maker and where you can kind of start to see some positive change on this defense. But as it is now, like I don't know if there's at least like a secondary in the NFL that has less talent overall than the Dolphins. And everyone's sensitive right now. I know it's probably going to hurt some feelings, but someone's got to be the worst. Someone has to be the worst. So I'm going to pick the Dolphins.
I mean, the issue too is like you can't count on 30 combined games between Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, even within that front seven, and that would be the sales pitch, right? Like I have to see those two guys on the field productive again. We haven't gotten the Bradley Chubb that Miami thought they were traded for in a little while, and Jalen Phillips was hot before he got hurt, and then obviously, you don't put any of that on him, and he's obviously battled a lot of injury issues going back to college, trying to be available, but that's just part of the truth of the matter. And now I'm looking at Zach Sealer, who's aging, still very productive, but is aging. You have a Benito Jones, which is kind of like a non-entity at nose tackle, and depends on, I guess, on how much he plays, and I don't know how much time he's even going to get on the field. And now you need Kenneth Grant, who's really like a gap plugging type of defensive tackle to be another difference maker for you. There's just so many strings that they have to pull perfectly to make this work. I can't see it. Not for this team.
Yeah. Now, moving on to Pittsburgh, just in general, a question that I got stuck on, I guess, this morning, kind of after I turned it in already, but is Aaron Rodgers going to like playing in this offense? I just can't.
No.
Look at what they have. Like, they just traded for Johnny Smith, who has not really been all that productive with Arthur Smith, even though Arthur Smith seemed to like him. Like, I remember in Atlanta, there was just like a couple games where, there's Jonnu, he's got a 60-yard touchdown, or he's got a big play, but overall, it wasn't very consistent. So you have an offense that wants to be, a 2 tight end, 12 personnel team. You've got one real receiver in DK Metcalf, and then the offensive line is kind of an question mark. I just don't really see how this marriage makes a whole lot of sense for everyone involved.
It seems like an offense that needs to be a front-running offense, if that makes sense. Like, they need to be in the right game scripts. They need to be ahead. They can't be in a situation where they have to pass the ball. Like, that's kind of what you've seen with the Jets offense when Aaron Rodgers was there. It's like they wanted to be this style of offense, whatever Nate Hackett wanted to do, but like their team sucked and they were behind in games and they had to like give him the gun and throw all the time. That's what it feels like they're going to be. Like, it feels like they have all these tight ends on the roster now, including like Freiermuth in Washington. But are they going to be able to use it? Are they going to be able to play with their base offense all the time? Like, you have to be a good team to be able to play in your base offense all the time. I just don't know if that's going to happen. So to answer your question, like, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be happy in this offense. When was the last time he was happy playing in an offense? Like, even when Matt LaFleur got there and kind of rejuvenated his career and got him back on the MVP track, he was kind of complaining about it. He was like, hey, I used to be able to call audibles all the time and now I can't. I feel like he's found himself in the same situation, except he doesn't have the MVP clout that he had 3 years ago.
Past that, how is Arthur Smith going to be happy with an offense that's built in the old Tennessee image? Like, and I wrote about this yesterday. Like, imagine building Tennessee's old offense, but you don't have Derrick Henry. You have a worse version of A.J. Brown playing as your number one receiver. And now you have a quarterback that is not at all really bought into being the under center. Okay, back foot hits the back of my drop, and I've got to throw the dig, even if I don't like the coverage picture. Right? Like, that's just not the way that Aaron likes to operate. I think that. And the thing that makes it tricky, right, and Jonnu Smith is that's another piece of this, and in talking with other people about his usage and just watching the tape in Miami, all the stuff that he does best, you already have a guy on the roster that does it. Pat Freiermuth is your yak guy as a tight end. He is the guy that you can get the ball to in the red zone. He's the guy that you can dump the ball off to on third downs. So there's just going to be so many questions about usage and personnel. Are you in the gun the way that Aaron wants to be in the gun? How much power does he have over what's going on pre-snap? What are you going to get from DK Metcalf? Like, Metcalf is not the same headache as George Pickens, but he's had some moping issues before in Seattle when he didn't feel like he was involved enough in the offense. There are so many ways for me that this can go wrong, and I'm just looking at Mike Tomlin like, if this is your version of all in, buddy, I don't know where we've landed.
Right.
That's the problem. I don't know if does Tomlin think this is all in, but like, it doesn't even matter because the reporters around Pittsburgh seem to think that they're all in, and like everyone's talking like they're all in. Like, this team is not ready to compete. So if the expectation is all in, like, we can already say this is going to be a failure from the start because they're not going to make the AFC Championship.
No. I feel like this could be one of the, maybe the Steelers team of like the last couple years, like in that time frame where they've been trying to get a quarterback post Ben Roethlisberger, but they've been too good to actually get the quarterback post Ben Roethlisberger, even though they're not actually a good football team. like when you look, because when you look at their stats, I was running through their page on True Media yesterday. I was like, how the hell did this team win 10, 11 games? And you look at the year before that, how the hell did this team win 10, 11 games? And it's not even like the defense is just straight out stalwart. You know, like
No,
they have
yeah.
their moments where they're not good, but then the offense isn't good. And then you look at the final score, it's like 19-16, and no one had a good time at the end of the game. And I feel like this could be like the worst version of that because they do have a little bit more talent on offense. I do think getting DK Metcalf helps. We'll see how much it matters, like just swapping DK for George kind of 1-for-1. If the offensive line is healthy, that should be a pretty good unit. But man, I just don't see how they don't end up playing just the rock football that we all hate watching every single week, but that's what they do.
I don't know how much you remember of like the Rex Ryan era Jets, but like this feels so much like those 2009, 2010 teams where you've got names and a defensive system that I guess is good enough to just, like you said, rock fight, and we'll sit on the ball on offense and hope that our quarterback doesn't turn the ball over. And we're just not in that context of the league anymore, where that's going to be good enough to get you to a conference championship. I can't see them being any better by odds or just by play than being the third best team in the division. And if you're the third best team in the AFC North, then you are basically eliminated from being a serious team. If you can't be better than Cincinnati, which I don't think that they are, that's kind of my barometer for where you are as a contender in that conference. It's going to be tough. And they don't have an easy schedule either. That's the other part of it, is that there aren't very many gimmies. So if there's anything wrong with Aaron Rodgers, if there's any health issues with Darius Slay or with Jalen Ramsey, if this offense takes any time to kind of find its footing, we could easily look up and this can be even more of a disaster season than I think any of us would pitch as worst case scenario right now.
Disaster season, 10-7, baby. That's what they do. And
that is a disaster for them. That's how we're talking.
It is.
We're like, you were like, this is the worst version of the Steelers thing because they got a little bit better. Like maybe you got a little too good.
Okay, because you can make it. You can paint a picture where like the defense is pretty good this year. You know, Joey Porter Jr. and Jalen Ramsey. That's a damn good CB duo. And even you can project further down the line and say, okay, maybe we could have Joey Porter and Jalen Ramsey like playing safety behind him at some point. And that's still a really good duo to have. TJ Watt, maybe not as consistent as he used to be, still a really good player. They got some dudes on the defensive line, and no one wants to watch this team play football. It's really something incredible that they pulled together there, because we're going to look up and they're going to have like the 22nd ranked offense in like November, and they'll be 10-2, and not a soul believes that they're actually going to get this done.
That's the problem. Like in this day and age, like you can have like that Mickey Mouse record and nobody will believe in you. Like back in the 90s, you could be like 11-0 and be like a really like a crappy team, and the media would be like, "Oh, this team's just got it." But like, you remember the Steelers went 11-0 like a couple of years ago. I think it was during the pandemic.
Last year,
I remember betting on the Commanders to beat them. They played like on a Tuesday against the Commanders. I think it was their first loss, and like nobody was surprised that they lost, and they just like totally imploded down the stretch after that. I feel like we're in for that type of season. Like that's best case scenario, is like they're 8-2. Everyone like us is like, this team sucks, and we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then Aaron Rodgers is all defined in the media. But like that's what it feels like the best case scenario is. And if you're Mike Tomlin or you're a Steelers fan, like I don't know how you get excited about that, because it's been like that for 5 years straight.
Yeah. Sticking with the Steelers, TJ Watt is looking for a new deal. He is one of, I guess, four pass rusher deals that are still yet to be signed. TJ Watt, Micah Parsons with the Cowboys, Trey Hendrickson with the Cincinnati Bengals, and also Shamar Stewart with the Cincinnati Bengals. Which one of these is kind of like the most interesting situation to you? Because I find it absolutely baffling that Cincinnati might walk into the season without two of their top two pass rushers that they plan on having for like a title run season. But we did talk about that a little bit last week. But I just want to know, of those situations, which one is most interesting to you?
That's a good question. To me, it's the Shamar Stewart thing, because I just don't understand the spending on draft capital if you were going to try to backdoor this contract language that was not there for your last couple first round picks in the exact same range, right? Like that's the one that I just have the hardest time wrapping my head around. The Hendrickson thing, I mean, I guess it's been so protracted because this also bleeds back into last offseason too. So this is a storyline that people have been tracking for a while. But the Shamar Stewart one is like, why bring in a project if you're not going to get him in the door day one to work on NFL stuff, because he needs to get better at the edge rushing stuff that you need in the NFL. I really have a hard time wrapping my head around that one.
This is what Mike Brown enjoys. This is what the Browns enjoy. They
You said Browns. It's Bengals.
No, Mike Brown, the Browns, the ownership group.
The Browns. The Browns is in the ownership group. Yeah. They do get off on this. But I got to say, I still love that Shamar Stewart walked into that locker room and said, I need to get paid. Trey needs to get paid. And we're not doing a damn thing until us both get paid. And the funny thing is they have the money. They've had the money the whole time. Yes. So what are you guys playing for? If you're not going to trade them and you're not going to pay them, then what are you doing?
They literally designed a T. Higgins deal to make sure that they could get all these guys back for at least one more season, and they still haven't paid Trey Hendrickson. It does not make sense to me.
But I would say, like, the TJ Watt thing is just pay him. Yeah. I kind of get the skepticism from the Bengals side on Trey Hendrickson just because of his age and like kind of like the nature of his production. He's just basically, he's very good at it, but he's a designated pass rusher for the most part. So I understand like not wanting to pay him top dollar. And I guess you can make the same argument with TJ Watt. Like Chuck said, he's not the most consistent player these days, but the guy makes plays and he changes games. And like the plays he does make are like very big plays and affect the game. So I don't get it from their perspective. Just pay the guy. Like, I don't know.
It's not even like they have an expensive roster in 2026. In fact, like your quarterback is probably gone, right? He's already kind of hinted that 2025 is going to be it. You've cleared out a lot of other veteran salary. There's actually a lot of young guys on this roster. You could easily just give the dude $35 million in 2026 and say, hey, man, after your age 32 season, whatever you want to do with your football life is on you. We'll just pay you. We'll pay you to make sure that you're here for at least one more year. I really struggle with that. I struggle with the Steelers and the thinking and not having this deal done as early as possible because there's really nothing precluding them.
And then there's Jerry. I have no idea why Michael Parsons is not signed to a contract. I don't know why that hasn't happened like a year ago.
This is the easiest negotiation in the world. I think we talked about it on our podcast. If I'm Micah, I call Jerry and say, Myles Garrett plus $1 million. Thank you. Have a great day. That's it.
It's as simple as that. No, but Jerry has to be the businessman. He has to get like a deal done. And like that's like screwed him over the last couple of years. Like he's like in the best financial situation as any quarterback in the NFL. And it's because Jerry wants to like portray this image that he's not easily taken, especially with contract negotiations. You let an overweight Ezekiel Elliott hold out and you still made him the highest paid running back. Like you're washed, Jerry. I'm sorry. You're washed when it comes to that.
Okay, this reminds me though when I was in Dallas for the Shrine game, and it was overlap with the Brian Schottenheimer intro press conference. First of all, holy bro, that guy can talk. Jerry can talk, bro. The first answer was 15 minutes, and it was just, why did you hire Brian Schottenheimer? 15 minutes, and he cried halfway through about how good he is at picking head coaches. Not for anything sentimental, just, I'm this good at picking head coaches, from Jimmy Johnson, blah, blah, blah. He started crying over that. So that was weird. But then at one point, someone asked him about like negotiations and why it had taken so long for them to sign players in the past. Like after you see players like in their same draft year get deals, why is it taking you so long? And then Jerry like blamed Dak Prescott for like holding out until the last second to get his money. I'm like, I don't know if that's what's happening here, Jerry, because it keeps happening to you. Like, now it would be cool, but are all the Cowboy stars, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Tyler Smith, are they in cahoots to say, yo, let's just hold Jerry over the coals until the very last second, and then we can't sign anybody, and no one's going to come play with us, and we're going to sputter out a 10-7. Right. I thought it was baffling that he decided to blame the players for that, but it's also Jerry.
Yeah. I feel like he has this idea that playing for the Cowboys like brings some type of added value, and that's what he tries to like work that into the contract. Like if you read about like how they do contract negotiating, they have like this facility, the Star, I think they call it, and they have all these businesses that operate out of it. He's like, hey, look, if you come here, you can have a life after football. But like none of these players are going to alter their contract thinking like 10 years ahead that they might be able to get like I don't even know, like a Ford sponsorship that they wouldn't have gotten if they played in Tennessee or something. So I just think he puts too much stock in the Cowboys brand. I think he puts too much stock in his idea of himself as a negotiator.
With Shea Gilgeous-Alexander just scored what, 4 for like 270 something in Oklahoma City. It ain't 1980 anymore. You don't need to go to one of these premier, that's true for the NFL. You don't need to go to one of the premier, teams to get paid. Last thing that's been in my brain, a couple weeks ago, me and my lovely girlfriend, we went over to Barclays Center to watch the Liberty play. And we were sitting like not eye level, but like on the same row kind of or column as Russell Wilson, CR, although they were sitting courtside. And I've never seen someone whose feet are currently on the ground where a professional basketball game being played pay no attention to the game whatsoever. Like, he was on his phone the entire game, except there was a moment where he almost got run over by Sabrina Ionescu, and then he looked up for a second and then looked back at his phone until the game stopped to announce that Russell Wilson and CR were at the game. And then he stands up and is like, hey, leading the Liberty chant, turns back around, gets right back on his phone. So that's what made me think about the Giants for the past few weeks. And I just had to ask you guys who I know love watching the Giants and love spending as much time on New York football as I do. How good would the Giants have to be, specifically their defense, for this to be like a watchable team and for Russell Wilson to get the glory that he believes he deserves for this year? Because if you look at it, it's not that. You can sell. You can sell yourself on some of this stuff. Except I watched Diante Banks play last year.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad. And that was just such a drop off from I think where people thought it was going to be. But then you look at it, it's like Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter. You've moved Kayvon Thibodeau to edge 3, which is probably best for him. You've got Javon Holland. You've got Paulson Adebo. Maybe you get a bounce back from Deontay Banks. Is there a world where this defense is good enough where this team is actually watchable?
I think so. I don't know about the watchable thing because the offense is going to be unwatchable. I can say that. Like, I'm sorry. Like, Malik Neighbors, and that's in spite of Malik Neighbors. Like, it's going to be unwatchable. But the defensive line could be a thing. Like, a thing with a capital T where, like, it's so good that, like, the rest of the defense looks a lot better. Like, I'm thinking of, like, the mid-2010s Panthers when they had the pass rush and then, like, it made the secondary look good. I think you can get to that level. I just don't think that's good enough because the quarterback play, whoever's the quarterback, like, whether it's Wilson holds onto the job or Dart ends up wrestling it away from him or Jameis plays, God forbid, like, it's going to be a mistake-prone offense that you can't rely on week to week. So, like, I feel like best case scenario, even if you get that version of the defensive line, is still like 8-9, 9-8 at best.
So for me,
that'd be a good season, though.
I know, that's a great season. I like how we're talking about the Steelers, the terms we're using for the Steelers and the Giants. Like 9-8 is horrible for the Steelers, but for the Giants, that
you might get to come back. Yeah.
Like, to me, I guess, and Steven, you might be able to relate to this with the Wizards being in DC, but like, for me as a Southern Californian, you go to Clippers games depending on who they're playing. Right. So like when I was in high school, we would make the trek up to go see the 2009 Clippers play up against real teams because, they've got Baron Davis. So they're going to chuck up some shots. So it might look interesting enough until the second half when the team makes adjustments and then they just get run off the field. That's how I'm going to look at the Giants this year. Am I going to watch them individually? No. But when they play the Commanders, I'll watch that defensive line up against Jaden Daniels. When they play the Eagles, I'll watch that defensive front up against Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. Mm-hmm. I'm not just watching them play the Cardinals.
You can't say that on this podcast. Nate will find you and he will kill you.
Enjoy your paternity leave, bro. I am not watching this team play the Chargers and slog through, a field goal fest. I'm not doing that. And this is 1000%. This team is made for the YouTube TV multi-view features. As the moment that they get that defense off the field, I am watching something else. The audio won't be playing. I am not going to be looking in that square of my television at all.
The funny thing is Deontay gets paid to watch football. Like, this is our job. This is all of our jobs.
I'm supposed to be the defense guy.
Right. What do you mean? You're not going to watch them. We can't say that just yet. That's what you're supposed to text me at like 7 p.m. on Sunday. I didn't watch nothing today, boy. I got to catch up tomorrow.
Hey, brother, honesty is the best policy. I'm letting my bosses know up front. Don't ask me for takes.
But see, this is where I think the next stage of like athlete empowerment comes from, where someone like Malik Neighbors can say, you know what? I gave New York the honest try my rookie year. This ain't it. They just drafted Jackson Dart. We got Jameis hitting me in the head. Russ is praying to me. I got to get the hell out of here. Would that really be that offensive? Would that really be that offensive?
No.
You got Tommy DeVito trying to give him chicken cutlets in the locker room, man.
Listen, I watched that Thursday night game against the Cowboys, and I thought Malik Jameis was going to die. The one where he got like 14 targets or something like that. It seemed like there were like 8 plays in a row where he was throwing the comeback route, and I think one he just dropped and just didn't get back up. I was like, if they throw him another ball, he's never playing football again. He's going to hang it up as a rookie.
They're putting him in terrible spots too, just getting lit up
over the middle of the field.
For what? How many games did the Giants put in last year? 4?
I think 4.
And one of them they shouldn't have.
By the way, they have 3 primetime games.
Only 3. It's not bad.
Sunday Night Football, week 3. I can't believe they're doing it that quickly.
Right?
Yeah, Kansas City.
We'll finish out here. You know who has more primetime games than the Giants? The goddamn Falcons, who still have Kirk Cousins as their backup quarterback. Like when I saw the schedule, I couldn't believe what they did to me. And it's all like the best offenses in the league. Stands for the Colts. Like I know they play Buffalo, they play San Francisco, they play Minnesota, all on primetime. Like, is this just a way to assault my sensibilities? And Kirk Cousins is still a backup quarterback. How is Kirk Cousins still a backup quarterback for this team?
It's the most inexplicable thing. Like I think it's just the proof that this plan that they had last year, which was supposedly some master plan from Terry Fontenot in the front office, was a poorly thought out thing. Like you can't be paying a back. What is it going to be? 35, 37 million, something like that. It's got to be the highest paid backup in the history of the NFL. And it's just like last year, he couldn't function in the offense. So like even if he has to play and even if he has to come in, let's like assume that he doesn't get his pre-injury mobility back. Like I don't even think he's an asset as a backup necessarily.
Right? And he's not going to do it either.
That's another thing.
I just can't get the image of that Broncos game out of my head. I can only imagine what it would feel like in the locker room if anything were to happen to Michael Penix. And the lasting memory that you have are those back-to-back games against the Chargers and Broncos, where it just looked like Kirk Cousins was just going to take the snap, and wherever the ball went from there was God's will. He had nothing to do with it, as long as it was out of his own hands.
This is how you know Diante is going to hate watching the Giants. He refuses to watch the Giants, but he can distinctly remember a Broncos-Falcons regular season game from last year. That's how sick his mind is, but he won't watch the Giants.
I remember that game because I had people. I think I missed the game for whatever reason. I think I might have been out of way. I missed the game, and I'm sitting there. My phone's getting blown up. Like, oh, you hated Bo Nix, didn't you? Huh? Well, how about he's lighting up your Falcons? I'm like, I don't give a crap about that. Everyone lights up the Falcons. That doesn't make you special. And I went back and watched the game. It's just a bunch of screens that they just couldn't tackle, and it got out of hand. But the best part about the Kirk Cousins experience last year, he got benched off a win. Like they won that game against.
Yes,
they won that game against the Raiders on Monday night, and Raheem was like, "No." They almost let Devin Reader get a comeback victory at the end of that game. Like
they were still in position to win the division after that win, and Raheem was like, "I would rather not make the postseason at all than go into Tuesday practice with this guy."
That's the one thing I will agree with him on, because at that point, it had gotten so bad. And I still do think the worst part about all this Kirk Cousins stuff is he is the single game passing leader in Falcons history from that dumbass Thursday night game against the Bucs, where he torched him for 500 yards on Matt Ryan night, and then he immediately goes back into the cellar to play like crap for the rest of the season. And I think that's what all we're gonna end it here today. I don't really have that much more. Mina, Nate, they'll be back talking about their top football movies, top football shows. Steven, Diante, you want to plug anything before you guys get out of here?
Ringer NFL show. Yeah. Come listen to us complain in the same ways that we just did about all these teams. We hate football.
The Ringer NFL show replaced me with Shield, and they hate football. All right,
I'm just glad to be on, man.
We'll be back after a quick ad break.